Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me in this session. I hope you're having a blast so far on the summit. I certainly am. Today, I would like to dedicate these 20 minutes on the connection between IP and e-commerce and why intellectual property is very crucial for your e-commerce success and how we can actually use this asset to boost your sales and your brand recognition and to increase your consumer trust. I've seen it all. I've seen all kinds of successful e-commerce businesses that actually underestimate IP just because sales are going up, there are a lot of consumers, the product is hot, so why bother? Why actually try to put some effort, some administrative work, and why spend money on IP protection? Well, actually, in the short run, that might be the successful strategy, but in the long run, intellectual property has huge positives. It will definitely enhance your market positioning and will increase your competitive advantage. Very good, solid brand and protected brand fosters consumers' trust. And once you have your brand reputation in place and when you're watching over your IP protection, then all kind of new products that you're placing on the market, that you're trying to sell online, are automatically trusted by consumers. So you will not need to spend that much money on marketing campaigns. The brand speaks for itself. In addition, such kind of strong brand reputation and enforcing your IP rights drives your business growth through stronger brand recognition, just because brand reputation actually drives also partnerships, distribution agreements. It creates opportunities to unlock new territories and in such a way to increase your markets online. This is the positive side of IP protection. However, when it comes to abusive, misleading practices online, by registration of your IP assets, you can actually have the right to prevent misuse, unauthorized exploitation, and to prevent and to save yourself from any kind of third-party claims and unfair competition, including misleading advertisements. Of course, last but not least, the counterfeit industry. I think everybody is aware of the problem with this spreading online. So in order to combat any kind of a counterfeit product that infringes upon your right, the first step to do is to register your brand, your design, or any kind of IP asset that actually subsists within your product. Well, speaking about protection, speaking about enforcing your IP rights, we need to put them into context. And that's why I want to stress upon the key challenges in the e-commerce industry today, which actually pose the biggest threat on all kinds of e-commerce businesses. As mentioned before, counterfeit industry is maybe the major threat when it comes to e-commerce because it spreads all around us. It tarnishes your brand reputation, and once a customer is misled and buys a counterfeit product, then you need to spend maybe triple more in marketing to get them back as a customer and to get their trust back. Social media accounts, don't underestimate those. It might be not directly connected with doing an e-commerce business, with selling your products, but customers are very likely to perform cross-checks. Once they like a product on an e-commerce platform, they go to social media, they discuss there, they listen to influencers, bloggers, vloggers. So this creates a huge opportunity for abuses and for brand tarnishment and for unfair business practices. So once you have your product in place, your IP registration, make sure that you're screening to all kinds of social media platforms, you're looking at the profiles, you're identifying infringing profiles that uses your brand and reputation, and make sure that you report them to the platform. But here is the key: in order to report them and this profile to be taken down, you need to present the platform with your IP registration document. Otherwise, they wouldn't do anything about that. Next problem is the fact that nowadays it's very difficult to maintain a very good track record of all the marketplaces and what are their IP policies. Now, there are IP policies, they're not uniform, and you need to screen through all of those in order to make sure that you are aware of all the specificities and regulations that they impose in order for your claim against an infringing product to be successful. This is very challenging. Fortunately, the EU IPO, this is the European Union Intellectual Property Office, provides us with a tool where you can search for direct links of all the major e-commerce platforms, and there you can do a very, very simple screening what actually you need to observe when it comes to filing a claim on a specific e-commerce platform. Next, but maybe one of the most important things is the fact that by definition, e-commerce industry is borderless. We're not concerned about territories. That's the beauty of it. You can sell through one website worldwide. This is amazing. However, intellectual property by definition is strictly territorial. So in order to be able to enforce everywhere where you like, you need to have your registrations in place for every single territory. Selling in the EU is much more effortless, just because for the purposes of IP protection, EU is considered to be one territory. The legislation is absolutely uniform. And that's how you can maintain and protect your brand and your design, the design of the product, with only one registration and not with 27, the way it used to be. Another very big benefit of selling within the EU territory is the fact that the legislation is very e-commerce favorable, and European Union is doing everything to make you feel very comfortable when selling and looking for infringing products on the market, and this is achieved mostly through the Digital Service Act, which mandates the platforms to reduce intellectual property infringement. So what EU did, it actually shifted the responsibility to the platforms, despite the fact that they are not the traders per se, and they made them create policies that actually protect and to watch for intellectual property infringements and to create opportunities for you, for the IP right holders, to enforce easily, effortlessly, and without any hurdles despite the territory problem. Okay, so what are the essential tools of the European Union Intellectual Property Office? I mentioned the fact that it is a great pool of information. You can search for all kinds of information regarding intellectual property and e-commerce, including all the links of the marketplaces, IP protection strategies. However, the two major tools are the EU Trademark Registration Portal and Community Designs Registration Portal. Through these portals, actually online, with a couple of clicks, you can actually maintain and obtain your registrations, look for third-party trademarks that you might potentially infringe before registration, look for relevant community designs, see where you are actually placed within the market when it comes to IP protection. Everything is very easy to use. They implemented a lot of AIs and they won a lot of rewards. So this website is worth going through. It gives you basically the whole information that you need if you're planning to sell on your territory new products that are still not IP protected. I mentioned the DSA. The DSA, I just want to go in a little bit more detail because it imposes specific obligations which are very favorable for e-commerce traders. And the first obligation is the so-called notice and action obligation. This, in a nutshell, this means that once you spot an infringing good and you actually serve a notice to the platform, they're obliged to take action. They need to do investigation. They need to identify the infringing product, and in case you have the evidence that you are the right IP holder, then they need to take down the infringing good from their platform. And here is the key. Without IP registration of your brand, of your design, they would never actually take down the infringing good because you have not protected your IP. Second thing, which actually solves a lot of problems before the Digital Service Act, is to ensure traceability of traders. Once you spot the infringing good, a lot of e-commerce traders were willing to try to impose any sanctions on them and to claim damages from them. But the problem was that while selling online, it's very easy to be hidden. And once you're hidden, there is no counterparty that you need to file the claim against. So what the DCA did, it made sure that all the e-commerce marketplaces make sure that they get to the bottom of the actual trader, and once there is an IP infringement spotted and the product is taken down from the market, then you can easily get the actual data about the trader, and then you can actually file a claim for damages. They also made the platforms to create very easy to understand terms and conditions. You no longer need to actually get your legal advisor with you to understand what you're entitled to, what is the procedure, and how to enforce your IP rights. They are obliged to create it very user-friendly, and I've checked, it is indeed. Also, in case they spot any kind of misleading advertisement, even without notice, they're going to take it down. But all of these are secondary liabilities because their liability is actually imposed only after receipt of infringement notice. And in order for you to file the so-called infringement notice, you need to support it with evidence of the fact that you have properly registered your IP right. So without IP right registration, you wouldn't be able to make use of all these tools that the DCA brings along to the marketplaces so that it can make your life easier. Now here's just a snapshot of the e-commerce information platform from the EU IPO. I've taken down exactly the snapshot where there are the concrete links of all the e-commerce marketplaces that were willing to actually provide it within the pool, the terms and conditions. With one easy click, you're automatically forwarded to their IP policy. And I find it especially useful because you have it all there. All the marketplaces, all the IP policies and protection tools, and it is very easy to orient yourself around that. Speaking about different terms and conditions and different IP protection policies, I think that it might be very useful to put you into some real case studies and to bring everything set until now into context. I just took some examples from Etsy, eBay, and Amazon just because they're very popular and because their IP protection programs vary. So you can see different examples of how the marketplaces are actually handling the matter and trying to abide by the obligations imposed by the DSA Act. They're in order of importance and diligence. However, I'm going to start with Etsy. Etsy has a reporting portal. It's very easy to use, but it's very simple. Basically, what they do have there is that you're downloading a form, an application form for IP infringement. You're putting down which good is infringing your IP right. You're putting down your IP registration, and you're sending it over email. So it's very simple. It complies totally with the DSA, but it's nothing much. Then second best is the eBay Verified Right Owners program. They went a step further. They actually created a digital portal where you are registering your IP right beforehand, even if you're not selling there, doesn't matter. And once you have your profile, your IP right owner profile, then you're actually claiming the infringement within the portal, and everything else is automatically when it comes to process. And of course, the big player in IP protection in the e-commerce is Amazon. They have created their own AI-powered and backed brand registry, and they are going way further than the other marketplaces. Amazon is trying to force you to actually protect your IP, because once you protect the IP and put it into the brand registry, you're getting a variety of benefits. You can work on building the brand reputation and consumer trust, and all of this is performed through their AI, and the more data and consumer behavior and IP infringements you are putting within the portal, the more the portal actually does everything automatically for you. It even has this feature of automatic counterfeit detection and removal. However, in order to get to this stage, you actually need to fill in a lot of data beforehand. So Amazon is trying to do the best in order to force you to get your IP registrations and protection in place. Okay, so before getting to the registration, it is very crucial to know that you cannot simply go to the portal and just file one application for registration of your brand or design. It might seem simple, but it's not, because IP protection is very useful once you're doing proactively and you're looking for the future and not retroactively. And for sure, it's not going to make a lot of use for you if you're not actually thinking 5 years ahead. So before going and registering whatever IP you might think you have, it's good to create a very lean strategy where you look at your product, you spot all the IP that it has. It might be trademarks, might be designs, there might be some patentable subject matter, there might be some geographical indications. So you need to be very aware what is your IP that you need to protect, why to protect it. You need to define the sources of income that you're planning to have 5 years ahead. This means that you need to think in the future of unlocking new territories, execution of possible licenses, distribution agreements, and even after all that, you need to think in advance of how you're going to enforce and maintain your registration on the relevant territory. So it's not just a matter of a simple application filing. A lot of things have to be considered beforehand. And because, of course, we're talking about e-commerce, we're talking about products, most of them fast-moving consumer goods, I decided just to give you an example of how you need to do the step-by-step protection for the trademark specifically, because it's another story for community designs, another story for patents. But when it comes to trademark, again, you need to identify the territories and the e-commerce marketplaces. It's better in advance to skim the relevant terms and conditions of the marketplace and to see whether they have some specificities that you need to abide to. Second step, which is very often neglected, but it's very crucial, you need to conduct trademark searches before applying for registration. This is very crucial because if you actually file for registration of a trademark that infringes upon a previously registered trademark, then you might be in trouble and somebody can file a claim against you and take down your goods. So this is something that we don't want to do. And after the registration of the trademark, of course, you need to make sure that this is not the end, it's only the beginning, and we need to start monitoring and maintaining the registration so that all this effort was actually worth it. For the end, I just wanted to make sure that I'm drawing your attention on the AI and its impact over the IP for the e-commerce. Too early to say whether it's going to be hugely beneficial or it's going to tarnish the whole policy of the IP in the e-commerce environment. However, just make sure that it have two sides of the story. It can be your friend or your foe, just because there are a lot of benefits if you implement the right AI and you use the right AI, because these are tools for fast, accurate, and very reliable detection of IP infringement. However, it might actually poses huge threats over your business because the unfair competitors may use especially generative AI so that they can create infringing content which is very difficult to track and to spot. So basically, if I've already bored you to death, I'm so sorry. In a nutshell, if anything important was said for the past 20 minutes, is that IP protection might be an invaluable asset for increasing your sales and for boosting the consumer trust. Be proactive. Take your time to just do the research and see what can be very beneficial for your business, and make the most of the EU regulations just because they're trying to make your life easier and better. In case you have any questions, I'm available and I'm around. Thank you very much.